Have you ever thought about becoming President of the United States? You could live at the White House in Washington, D.C., drive around in a limousine, and fly on a special jet. So, how do you become president? Well, in the United States, presidents are elected or chosen by its citizens. In the United States, citizens rule. It's how we elect a president. To understand how and why we elect a president the way we do, you have to know a little bit about our government. So, let's start there. This is the Constitution of the United States. It's a document that says how our government works. The Constitution says that the power of our government is divided between three parts, or branches. The legislative branch, called Congress, passes the laws. The judicial branch, headed by the Supreme Court, decides if the laws agree with the Constitution. And the executive branch makes sure that the laws are carried out. The president is the head of the executive branch. The president is also the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. There's also a vice president who can take over if the president dies or is unable to hold office. Both the president and the vice president are elected to serve a 4-year term. There are only 3 qualifications for becoming president. The person has to be a natural-born citizen of the United States, at least 35 years of age, and must have lived in the United States for at least 14 years. You get to be president by winning an election. In an election, citizens get to elect or choose a person to represent them in government. Presidential elections take place in November. It's called the popular or general election, where registered voters can vote for the candidate they want for president. A candidate is a person who is trying to get elected. But the general election is not the official election that is required by the Constitution. To understand why, we have to go back to the early days of our country. At the Constitutional Convention in 1787, the delegates debated long and hard about how to elect the president. Some thought it should be up to Congress. Others thought it was a job for the states. Still others considered having the people elect the president directly. However, back then it was difficult for people to communicate and get information. Many leaders thought that most citizens wouldn't be informed enough to make a good decision. So, in the end, the writers of the Constitution came up with a compromise. It's called the Electoral College. We'll find out more about the Electoral College shortly, but now it's time to play Know Your Government. Do you know the answers to the following questions? Which of the following is not a branch of the U.S. government? Is it the A, legislative branch, B, homeland branch, C, judicial branch, or D, executive branch? The answer is B. The homeland branch is not a branch of the government. The 3 branches of government are the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and the executive branch. Here's the next question up on the board. How old do you have to be to become President of the United States? Is it A, 30 years old, B, 45 years old, C, 35 years old, or D, 15 years old? The answer is C. You must be 35 years old to become president. Now here's the last question. What do we call a person who is running for president? Is it A, a candidate, B, a judge, C, a dude, or D, Mr. President? If you said A, you're right. The person running for president is called a candidate. Here's a presidential fun fact. Abraham Lincoln was the tallest president. He was 6 feet 4 inches tall. James Madison was the shortest president. at 5 feet 4 inches. That's the long and short of it. Okay, let's talk about the Electoral College. First of all, the Electoral College is not a school where you go to learn. The word college in this case means a group of people who work together to vote. Each state gets a certain number of electors. The electors vote for president and vice president. The number of electors is equal to the number of representatives in Congress, and that is determined by the state's population, or the number of people who live in the state. It's easier to understand with an example. California has a very large population. It has 2 senators and 53 representatives in the House of Representatives. So, California has 55 electoral votes. The state of Maine has a smaller population. It has 2 senators and 2 representatives in the House of Representatives. So Maine has 4 electoral votes. Today, in most states, the candidate for president who wins the popular or general election gets all the state's electoral votes. The electors meet in their own states in December, 41 days after the general election, where they cast 1 ballot for president and vice president. To be named president, the candidate has to get more than half of the votes of the Electoral College. Today, there are 538 electoral votes. There are 100 for the 100 senators, 435 for the members of the House of Representatives, and 3 from Washington, D.C. A majority means a candidate must get 270 electoral votes. If no candidate gets a majority, then the election has to be decided by Congress. But the candidate who gets the most popular votes isn't guaranteed to get the most electoral votes and become president. That's happened 4 times. The last time it happened was in the election of 2000. Candidate Al Gore won the popular vote, but George W. Bush's votes came from bigger states, so he won the Electoral College vote and became president. Now it's time to play Know Your Electoral College. See if you can answer the following questions. Question 1. The Electoral College is A. A school in Washington. B. A group of electors. C. Another name for Congress. If you said B, a group of electors, you're absolutely right. Question number 2. The number of electors in a state is equal to A. The number of cities in the state. B. The exact number of voters. C. The number of representatives in Congress. The correct answer is C. The number of electors in a state is equal to the number of representatives in Congress. Okay, last question's up on the board. How many electoral votes does a candidate need to win the election? A. 538. B. 270. Or C. 100. 2 from every state. The correct answer is B. A candidate needs 270 electoral votes to win the election. Now here's another fun fact. President William Howard Taft was the heaviest president. He weighed over 300 pounds. He was a president who could really throw his weight around. Now let's talk about political parties. A political party is a group of people who work towards the same political goals. Throughout our nation's history, there have been many political parties. Since the 1850s, the 2 major political parties have been the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Each party has a symbol. The Republicans are represented by an elephant, the Democrats by a donkey. To be a candidate for president, a person has to get their party's nomination. Any person who says they want to be a candidate for president has to show how much support they have within their party. They do that by going to each state to find out. Some states, like Iowa, have a caucus. A caucus is a meeting where members of the same political party get together, in this case to choose a presidential nominee. Many states have a primary. A primary is an election where people vote for who they want to receive the party's nomination. During the summer of the election year, each party holds its national convention. That's where delegates from every state get together and select the party's presidential and vice presidential candidate. The two candidates together are called the party's ticket. Also, at each convention, the delegates vote on the party's policies and political views. This statement is called a platform. Now it's time to play Know Your Political Parties. Here's question number 1. The symbol for the Democratic Party is A, an elephant, B, a donkey, or C, a cat. The answer is B. A donkey is the symbol of the Democratic Party. The next question is, what is the symbol of the Republican Party? Is it A, a tiger, B, a bear, or C, an elephant? The answer is C, elephant. The elephant is the symbol of the Republican Party. Here's a presidential fun fact. The youngest president to be inaugurated was John F. Kennedy. He was 43 years old. The oldest president to be inaugurated was Ronald Reagan. He was 69 years old. No joke. It's important for candidates to let people know who they are and what they think on important issues. They do that through a nationwide campaign. A campaign is when people act together to try to get a candidate elected. It's important for candidates to meet voters across the country. In the past, people didn't have television or radio, and it was difficult to travel from state to state. It was hard for candidates to get their message out to all of the people. When the railroads were built, it was possible for candidates to bring their campaigns to more people. These became known as whistle-stop campaigns. Today, candidates can reach voters through all kinds of media, including TV, radio, and the internet. Airplanes allow candidates to travel and campaign in every state. Today, candidates debate or talk about the issues that are important to them. People can watch and learn about each candidate and decide who they will vote for. And all the campaigning leads to the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November, when millions of Americans all across the country go to the polls and vote for President and Vice President of the United States. January 20th has been Inauguration Day since 1937. At exactly 12 noon, the President takes this oath or promise.
I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Now it's time to play Know Your Presidential Campaign. Here's the first question up on the board. When people try to get a candidate elected, it's called A, presidential debate, B, a party, C, a campaign. The answer is C, campaign. Here's the next question up on the board. A whistle-stop campaign refers to A, candidates who like to whistle, B, candidates traveling by train to meet voters, or C, candidate who travels by plane. The answer is B. Whistle-stop campaign refers to candidates who travel by train to meet voters. And the final question, there it is. Inauguration Day is the day A, voters elect the president, B, the president takes the oath of office, C, the day all the votes are counted. The correct answer is B. Inauguration Day is the day the president takes the oath of office. So, what's it take to become President of the United States? Well, if you are a natural-born citizen, if you're at least 35 years old, and have lived in the United States at least 14 years, you're eligible to be president. Can you win a party's nomination? Can you get enough Electoral College votes? Just maybe you can. But it's up to the American people, because in America, citizens rule.